Hello, and thanks for stopping by. My name is Matthew Gundel, Strategic Business Consultant for Hewlett-Packard, along with my associate Monty Faulkner, Solutions Architect. We're going to give you a live demonstration of the WS4500, the fastest, most productive, quick changeover digital narrow web press on the market today. You know, in this marketplace of multiple SKUs, shorter lead times, and shrinking margins, most converters are seeking a better business solution for their customers. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Monty, and let's talk a little bit about the WS4500. Monty, what does WS4500 stand for?
Well, the W stands for web and the S stands for specialty. So it's a web specialty 4500 digital press.
And what kind of substrates can this press handle?
There's a lot of different material you can run through this press. Anything from 12 micron thin film up to 16-point folding carton and any kind of material in between. And you know, when you're dealing with heavy materials, you don't have to worry about lifting anything because we have these pneumatic pistons that come down to the floor. You roll the material on, and then it'll lift it up onto the press for you. You can use a 3-inch or a 6-inch core adapter. Now your web width can be 7 inches all the way up to 13 inches and anything in between as well. Now, depending on the material that you're going to run, you can change the tension control. You can adjust it for thin films versus thick material and really how to control it there. Now, we also want to mention the splicing system we have. It really makes it easy to set up to go right into finishing. A nice clean splice, we know how important that is for the industry. And we can also print right over that splice when you're dealing with substrate to substrate, so you really don't have that kind of waste there. From there, we have a web guide that can either center the web going through the press, or you can track it depending on how that material is rewound to begin with.
So what's the maximum outside diameter that I can put on this press?
You can put up to a 48-inch outside diameter roll.
That's great. So Monty, with that, tell me a little bit about the rewind part of the press.
Okay, well the rewind on this, really we know there's so much flexibility when it comes to finishing and requirements that your customers have, so we're going to go roll to roll on this system. We also have the ability to change tension control on this end. Once again, if we're doing thin film or we're doing folding carton as well, we change the controllers over here and go right into a rewind web.
So Monty, what happens if I have a web that's already pre-printed with an eye mark, or I want to put it through the press a second time? Do I have the ability to do reinsertion?
Absolutely. We have second pass reinsertion on this technology where an eye mark is all that's needed to register the front to the back when we're running these jobs.
That's fantastic, Monty. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the print engine and the digital press itself.
Okay. Now to begin, we have a digital offset press. Now it's digital in the sense that every single separation coming through this output really can be changed. So variable data, versioning is no issue at all. It won't slow down the press at all either. We're going to charge the surface of a plate, the photo imaging plate right here. And with the Scorotron units, there's 3 Scorotron units up there, and that's going to set the whole background voltage so we can expose an image. We're going to make a latent image by exposing it with light. That's going to allow our electro ink to know where to stick onto and where not to. And wherever it's not going to stick, it's going to come back down into the station, into the ink cabinet, be cleaned, calibrated, and then reused for another separation. So from that point, we're going to transfer that image onto a blanket. Now the blanket is the digital offset part. We're offsetting our ink from our plate to our blanket, and as it builds up to 16 different separations, then we're going to lay down our ink onto our material. And it doesn't matter what material we're printing on. That's why we always have perfect registration, because of that one-shot technology.
So let me make sure I understand. You have all of the 7 colors, one color at a time onto the blanket, any combination of those 7 onto that blanket, and then in one shot you're transferring to the substrate. One single print engine, perfect registration to blanket, perfect registration to the substrate.
Correct.
So tell me a little bit about the ink tanks, Monty.
Well, we are dealing with a 7-color press, as you know. We can have CMYK. We can also include orange, violet, and green, which we call Indichrome Plus. Or if you're running on clear material or metallized material, you can install a white ink on this. Now, if you have some spot needs or some corporate colors that you have to match, you can mix your own ink on site and have that installed in the press by your operator.
That sounds like a great option, Monty, but it sounds like a timely process to be switching out. You've got these ink tanks, you get these ink canisters here, ink tanks, and to be swapping out colors and cleaning tanks sounds like a very time-consuming process.
Well, we've designed it so that you don't have to stop the press at all to change over these colors. We have something that's on-press fast ink replacement. As you can see up there, it really is a filtration system that's going to be flushing out that spot color out of the press while you're running production, while you're running those other jobs. So you really don't have to stop the press to change over those spot colors and really keep in a production mode.
So let me make sure I understand you correctly. Let's say, for example, the job you're running right now is CMYK plus a PMS red. The job in the queue is PMS or CMYK and PMS blue. You're telling me that while you're running the job with the PMS red, you can change out to the next job in the queue to PMS blue, all while the press is still running?
Sure, that's using on-press fast ink replacement. That really allows us to really plan what jobs are running and what colors we need to mix ahead of time and install into the press so that we can keep our production press running full production.
So one thing we haven't touched on, Monty, is the speed of the press. How fast is this press?
Well, we have different modes that you can be running in, and really the separation is going to change the output of the press. So when you're dealing with separations, one color is one separation. So we have 4-color speed, and that is at 52 feet per minute. And then if we only want to run 2 colors, we can go as fast as 104 feet per minute. And then we have 3-color speeds in between there.
Now that sounds kind of slow, Monty. 52 feet a minute for 4-color process. Most flexo presses are running upwards of 100, 150, 200 feet a minute. 50 feet a minute, we're talking about this being a fast production press. Sounds like it's kind of a slow press.
Well, if you combine the fact that we really don't have any make-ready, we have no waste, and we can go from job to job without doing any kind of changeover, using the same consumables, it's actually very fast. Throw in there the fact that we're changing variable data. We're doing versioning. All that the technology is handling all on its own without an operator changing anything.
So what would you say is our customers are seeing as the average make-ready from each job? How many linear footage are they typically using to make ready a job?
Well, depending on, of course, the application, it has a lot to do with the finishing. So depending on the finishing you're using, some operators will take up to 10 feet to get that next die lined up with that job.
So 10 to 20 feet make ready,
Sure.
on to the next job.
Sure.
So tell me a little bit about calibration of the press. So we've got 7 ink tanks, we've got a lot of computer equipment here. How does the press calibrate itself, and how do we make sure that job to job is consistent? And even with that, printing on papers and foils and films and all these different substrates, sounds like a complex process to go about getting the job calibrated and up to color.
Well, since it's digital, Matt, everything's going to be really taken care of for you. To give you an example, it's going to calibrate the color onto the substrate that you've already pre-profiled for that job. So you have a calibration. It's an internal. It's an X-Rite densitometer system. It's going to record those results and make any adjustment so that we're very consistent job after job, day, month, years later. As long as you do your maintenance on a weekly basis, you're really going to have very tight consistency.
So tell me about some of the color adjustment controls that we have on this press. So say my customer comes in, they've approved the proof, but they look at it and they say, you know what, I'd like it to be a little bit more red or a little bit more blue. Do I have color controls on this press like I would be able to change analog scrolls or pressures on a flexo press or offset keys, or how do I do color calibration?
Well, you have a lot of control on the press. A lot of the adjustments, we are going to encourage you to go back to pre-press so that you have one system that's going to be calibrating really those files going from different types of technology. But we do have the ability to change some of the colors while we're printing. And to give you an example, I really don't have to print out a job to see what that job entails. Any of the lengths that we're running on, any of the setup, the die lines, the colors, I can look at here by viewing this. And then I can go in and select the job and change lookup table curves, which gives the operator the ability to change color on the fly and then record those colors once approved.
So what happens if I'm running on a clear substrate and I want some of it to show through, and I want some of it to have a white backer behind it. Do we have a white ink for this press?
We do. We have the one technology which does allow us to print color after color, layer after layer, up to 16 layers, and we call that sandwich printing. And that'll allow us to make that window appearance where you have one image reversed, the second on the top side, and you can look through that and not see through them. It's a really nice white.
This brings us to the conclusion of our WS4500 demonstration. If you would like additional information, please visit our website or the number below on your screen. I'd also like to thank our solution architect, Monty Faulkner.
My pleasure, Matt.